Hello, this is a walkthrough of Learning Exercise 1 in our mobile apps course. In this first unit, we're going back to MIT App Inventor, which we use in the CS Principles class, and look at creating apps in that. Um, while we're doing that, we're going to kind of try to focus on some of the details from those apps that will be similar and adjusted when we create apps in Android Studio and in Flutter for this. So the first one we're going to do in this learning exercise is a weather app here. So we're going to use the Open Weather Map API, and we've got an API key already set up, and this is the link. So if I paste that link into a new web page, I'll see that it goes out to this weather site and returns the weather in JSON format uh, in a text thing and then we're providing the city of Duluth here, so the city is Duluth. So that's what it's doing here. So we're going to create a weather app for that. Relatively simple. We just want a button that says get weather and then a couple labels, one that says current temperature and current humidity, and then actual labels where we'll display the actual values from this weather service for it. Again, you can create different sort of interfaces. Just this is just one sample one. Again, we want to keep it relatively simple here, and then we'll look at this code and we'll recreate this code. So I'm going to run this MIT App Inventor. Log in with my St. Scholastica ID, and then under projects go create a new project. Uh, okay. Now the first thing I want to do is set up that interface here. So again, I'm going to set up a button and then 4 labels and then set up some text and some properties for those. So I'm going to drag a button on top. I'm going to go down and do 4 labels underneath that. The button, let's do some renaming. Let's call this button get weather or something like that. Again, you don't have to follow these names exactly. I'm just doing a sample. So I'm going to, 2 of these labels we're going to be using. So this will be the label for the current temperature, and the other one will be the label for the current humidity here. So I'm going to rename those. I should probably rename them all, but I'm just going to do these. Humidity. Let's see how that works. Okay. Also change what's the text in these. So this will be get weather data. These the first and the third label. The first one will just say we'll say the words current temperature, and the next one will display here, this what label temp will display the current temperature, but for now we'll just say something like waiting for data. And then similar here. If you want, you can do some formatting. I'm just going to maybe set this width of the button to fill the page, and maybe this one I'll want to make bold or a little larger font or something like that. So okay, so now let's get into our code here. Before we do that, we're going to need one more component, and that's a web component. Now, not a web viewer. That's a view web page. But if I go down here to connectivity, there's a web interface component. I'm going to drag that on the screen. It's an invisible component, so it'll show down here as a non-visible component. So I'll need that. Okay, now that I have that, I can go into blocks. So what do I want this to do? I want a block so when I click this button, it'll go out with the web component and use this URL to get the data. And that's going to be an asynchronous call. So let's pay attention to how asynchronous calls are done with multiple blocks. So I go under the button, I get the click button attribute. with this, I'm going to go and get data from the website. So on my website, I'm going to say, let's see, just get web1.get. Now that'll get the data for the URL. And the URL is placed in this web component. There's a URL that I can type in here, but I may want to change that URL. This is only for Duluth, and I might want to later on use a different city or use a latitude and longitude for my location or something in there. So I'm going to change this. I'm not going to paste it in here. Instead, I'm just going to set it right before I call this. So again, under web, I'm going to go under the set URL here and put that up ahead. And for now, I'm just going to paste some text into that. And I'm going to paste this, this text into here. Okay, so that'll go out to this URL and get the data, and it'll get this text back like this. So this is not coming back as a file, it's coming back as text. So now this is an asynchronous web call. So it goes out and does this while the app keeps running, and then when the data comes in, a new block. And so this is commonly done with asynchronous, where we have to break our code up into two parts. So now we have a listener or an event here, and not the got file, but the got text one. I'm going to put the got text in here. And with that, I'm going to get a response code and a content type here. Just to kind of see how this works, let's just look at display those. So I'm just going to display those in my labels. So on my screen here, in the label temp and label humidity, I'm just going to display those two values for now. So I'm just going to say in this label, I'm going to set the text here. And I'm going to set it to the response code to see what that is. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And likewise, I'm just going to duplicate that and set this, the other one, the humidity, to the response content. So I'm going to put the content in one and the response code in the other one. So now I should be able to run this and kind of see how this works. So now I'm just going to try this out on my phone. I'm mirroring my phone on the screen here, so if we can see it, I'm just going to go connect to AI Companion. I'm going to scan that code here. Okay, now that it's on the screen, we can hit go over here and hit the Get Weather button. We'll go out and get the weather data. Now, let's see what's returned here. So again, looking back at our blocks, the response code is this top one and this 200. And then the bottom one is this text. And this is the text here also that we get back from this. So let's look a little bit more at those. So first, the response code. This is the HTTP is our protocol we're using, and there are different codes, whole set of codes we have here. But the only one we need to worry about is 200, which is OK. That means that the success, it was an OK request. So that's what we want to look for here. So that 200 is good for that, and that's the one we should be looking for. When we get that. And then the content here is this JSON data. So this is JSON data. It's somehow hard to see in this format and that format. So I'm going to actually take it out of here, copy it, and in our app here, I have this JSON lint file. I'm just going to paste it in there and say validate. And what this will do is reformat it a little prettier. So what it's showing here is the JSON data. And so this is a bunch of key and data pairs or tagging data pairs. So like here's one, longitude is LON, that's the key, and then this is the data, and then comma, and then this is the next key, and then this is the data. And then actually these two are grouped into another one. So this is the key coordinates, and the data is actually this list of multiple key data pairs. So we have that, weather, base main, this is the one we'll be using. This main one has what, 5 or 6 different pairs in it. So this is the main keyword, and then this is the things. And we're going to want to grab this temp one, the temperature one, out of this and pull that temperature out of there. So let's look at a little bit how that works. So going back into App Inventor, we're getting this data here. For now, I'm just going to ignore the response code, and we'll do a check in there for now. And I will want to, but I'm going to set the temperature. Let's see if I can break. I'm going to just set the temperature to something. And so we were just, well, here, let's do the humidity. I already had it set up. Let's set the humidity here with the response code. So again, that's displaying this. But rather than displaying all this, I'm going to want to go through and grab a pair here. And so there's a method under lists. There's actually at the bottom of all the list things, there's a lookup pair. Pair is the key here. So I'm going to grab that up here. And for the pairs, I'm going to get the response. And for the key, I want to look up, and I'm going to find the main here. So I'm going to go under text, grab a text thing here, put it in here, and type in main just like it is there. And grab that. So now with that in place, let's see if I'm still connected. Now rather than grabbing all the data, it won't. So cannot accept. Oh yes, so it has some problems here. The problem is that I am still passing the whole string. This is the string that's not broken down properly. So I've got to parse this JSON data into pairs, and I forgot to do that. So now I'm going to go under web, and there's a object here to decode the JSON data into pairs. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to feed the JSON data there and stick that into my command here. So I'm going to take the response, decode the JSON into these pairs, and then look up the first pair here. So, well, I could actually do this in one step. I can actually just do this. If I just do that to show you there, let's see what it looks like. So I get the weather data, and again, it kind of breaks it up into a new format and parses it correctly. Now I can feed that into here and say I only want the main one, the one with the main keyword. So basically what it's done is it's kind of what we did, or in this website, we've reformatted it into pairs here. And we want to find, again, from the root one, we're going to find one of the keys, and we're going to go down and find this main key. And then it should return just this data rather than all the data. So that's what this is doing. Go to the main key of that. And so if I hit that now it is just finding the stuff under the main key: temp, temp min, temp max, humidity, pressure, feels like. So it's just finding those 4. Now once I have those, I can again look, and I just want to, I just want to get the temp key from that. So again, I can actually put this, you can use another one now that I've got that. I can do this again. I can use this as my pairs. Oops. Feed that in here, and the key I want to use now, the tag is temp. I want to find, so I've found the main one, and that's returned this, and now I'm going to go inside that and find the temp, and it should return that. Okay, so after main, I then look up within that result for the temp. And so if I hit that now, the temp should be displayed here. Now, right now it's displaying under humidity. So let's switch things around a little bit. I'm going to put this all in here. Oops. And set that up here. And I'm going to do something similar for the humidity. Let's duplicate this block. And one goes here, and one goes here. And keep my response code off. Okay. So when I go to the temp, I go to the main. I parse the data, go to main, get that, and then go to temp. And then for the humidity, where's the humidity set? So humidity is also under the main, and do the temp there. So I'm going to, what is it called? It is humidity. Let me just copy that and paste that in here. There. So now I should be getting the temp and the humidity and storing them in the right spots. There. Now, if I wanted to get something else, like rather than humidity, something like the wind speed, that's in a different root one called wind and then under speed. So if I wanted to get the wind speed, I would have to go and first grab the wind key, and then within that result, I would then have to look for the speed tag. So the tags here, the keys dictate how you're going to parse this. And again, we'll see, we won't do it in blocks, but we'll see something similar in it. If you've done JSON parsing in another language like JavaScript or something like that, you often have similar language things. And so again, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this. So a couple things to pay attention to is how asynchronous works. We sent out a call and then we got a response as a separate event. So when we're doing in Java or whatever, we'll do a RESTful call out there and get a RESTful response event happening. And then we'll have to parse that data using some library. And then once we have that, we'll have to look up the right key value pairs for this. Now, last thing let's check is this response code. What if something fails here? We want to say give an error statement. So we want to check the response code here. So I'm just going to put in an if-then control here, an if-then-else block here up at the top. And I'm going to check if where'd my response code go? Okay, I'm going to just get my response code here or here if I've saved it around. And I'm going to check if the response code is equal to 200 here. So I'm just going to do, I can do a math comparison, I guess, as these are both numbers. So if response code is equal to 200, and again, if you remember, 200 was, the value for an OK from the web server. So if it's that, then I want to do all this sort of stuff. Otherwise, maybe I want to say something different in the text. So maybe I want to set the label text to something like error or could not access server. Or something like that. Okay, so now I'm handling that response code, and then if assuming it is correct, I'm parsing that data correctly. So again, this just gets you thinking and remembering how we created apps back in App Inventor for CS Principles here. So hope you enjoyed this, and again, keep thinking about how we're going to do something similar in Java and also in Dart for Flutter. So good luck.